And to weigh in on President Trump's renewed pressure on Iran, examining the strategic shifts, the impact on regional stability and the potential for diplomacy amidst rising tensions and escalating sanctions, we are joined by Mr. Ali Atif, a researcher at the Egyptian Center for Thought and Strategic Studies from Cairo, and Mr. Frank Musmar, an international relations professor from Texas. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Mr. Atif, my first question goes to you now. Will Trump's pressure policy force Iran to make a deal? Will it work?
Hello, good evening for you and for your friends from the United States. At first, we should talk about what is the goal of Mr. Trump concerning Iran and concerning the nuclear activities of Iran. Mr. Trump, I think he wants to reach a deal with Iran at the end, but at first he knows that Iran has some goals that Iran does not want to give concessions to the United States concerning the nuclear deal. So Iran at first wants to earn many goals at first from the United States. So it declares that it does not want to sit on the negotiation table. So Mr. Khamenei and Mr. Pezeshkian, the Iranian president, declared that they do not want to sit on the negotiation table at this time. But I think they want to achieve their goals at the end to reach a deal with the United States also. So Mr. Trump and Iran, both of them want to reach a deal, but they have different goals and different ways of reaching this deal. Mr. Trump wants at first to impose sanctions on Iran, to enforce it, to come to the negotiation table at the end, but he does not want Iran to earn many, or he wants Iran to give to concessions to the United States at the end. So I think that both of them want to reach a deal at the end, but they have different ways. Iran has a different way of reaching a deal, and Mr. Trump's administration also has a different way of reaching a deal with Iran.
Mm-hmm. Professor Musmar, how does President Trump's tone towards Iran compare to his previous stance? How different or similar are they?
Well, kind of very similar, but with little bit differences. This time, Donald Trump has a new vision for the Middle East. He doesn't want to live the drama again with problems that has no solutions. United States perceive Iran it's the source of all problems and troubles in the Middle East. You know, they support all kind of militias. They are behind, or they are the source of any destabilization in the Middle East. Now, for the vision of the Middle East that Mr. Donald Trump is trying to impose, which is like a new umbrella of economic and sort of peaceful cooperation in the Middle East. So this means that an Iran with the nuclear weapons, an Iran with branches, an Iran with like the previous agenda, that they will be able to play around all the laws and regulations that even the Biden administration and the European Union, they would try to deal with him before. And we know how the Iranian regime is normally kind of sneaky and doesn't like to accept any international organizations umbrella or let's say regulations. So Donald Trump doesn't want to play this game again. He wants to impose the extreme sanctions on Iran. If they will accept all the conditions in that, he might be considering talking and negotiation with him, sort of agreements. But the main broad line is no nuclear weapons, no branches or proxies of Iran in the Middle East, and they have to halt all their missiles developments programs. So if Iran accept that, maybe we'll expect and there is a negotiations and a deal. Other than that, I don't think so.
Mm-hmm. Well, Mr. Atif, one of the tools that President Trump uses to apply pressure is the economic sanctions. Now, can these economic sanctions effectively prevent Iran, stop Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons?
Yes, I think these sanctions will play a great role in preventing Iran from reaching a nuclear deal. But this depends at the end on how much will this sanctions and this pressure affect the Iranian economy at first, and the Iranian effect on the Iranian regime also. So if these sanctions continue and continue to affect the Iranian economy and bring a great effect on the Iranian economy at the end, I think at that point, Mr. Khamenei and Pezeshkian will come to the negotiation table with dynasty. But we should, I think that we should take into consideration the first Trump administration in 2017 to 2021, when Mr. Trump imposed sanctions and imposed maximum pressure policy on Iran. But at that time also, Iran has continued its nuclear activities, and these sanctions could not prevent Iran from continuing these nuclear activities at the end. So this, I think that this depends on how much will this pressure and these sanctions will affect Iran, the Iranian economy at first. So, by the way, how much will this affect the Iranian regime way or activities also in the Middle East concerning its militias and militant groups in the Middle East also?
Mm-hmm. Professor Musmar, what is the European position on increasing pressure on Iran, especially after Iran's support for Russia in the Ukraine war, and given their past opposition to U.S. withdrawal from the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action?
Well, okay, now once we're talking about the Middle East, there is too many developments and it's happening in that area. Besides, we cannot ignore the Russian and Ukrainian deal that is going on now. So, if you remember what happened in Syria, most likely there were sort of agreements between the United States and Russia, and now it's developed into like more reality that might happen soon in Saudi Arabia with the two presidents meeting there. Now, definitely it's going to be discussed. One of the subjects that is going to be discussed, the position of Iran. The Europeans in general, they just cannot rely on the gas and oil and sort of resources from Iran. But, we are, as the United States now, trying to explore and be like the second maybe or the first superpower in energy, and that will create that market for us, which is Europe and the European Union. So basically, there is alternatives for Europeans from their perspectives, how they're gonna perceive Iran and how they're gonna do it. Basically, it was just an economic deal with Iran. European Union, they're not pro-Iran and they're not supporting Iran nuclear deal or nuclear programs or their proxies in the Middle East. Europeans tried, and they tried for the last 4 years. They failed. They weren't successful at all. So I think now with the new ambition of the United States to solve all the problems in the Middle East, including the problem with the Russia and Ukrainian war, we need, as a global community, to find a solution for Iran. So I think everybody is going to come to the table. They're going to agree on somehow main broad lines and points, what we're going to do with Iran. And we have to consider something very important. The Western world, even the United States, they don't want to destroy Iran. They want to have a different umbrella in the Middle East, and they want to find a way how they can integrate Iran in the Middle East. But with Iran nuclear programs and ambitions to develop that into nuclear weapons, which is not going to be accepted at all, and Iran cannot have those proxies anymore in the Middle East. So we have the main lines that Iran has to back up from him. Other than that, there is impossible that we can integrate Iran into the future of the Middle East. So if Iran will accept those conditions and they will be able to comply with what the Western world looking and trying to do in the future for the future of the Middle East, I think we will go and negotiate and discuss on a round table what we're going to do with Iran. Other than that, I don't think anything is going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, Mr. Atif, do you think that Iran will accept these conditions? Will it accept Trump's offer for a peaceful agreement given the ongoing tensions, especially keeping in mind the Iranian rhetoric of continuing the nuclear development and enriching uranium?
Yes, I think that Iran accepts that or not to set on the negotiation table. This depends, I think, at the end on how much will these sanctions affect badly the Iranian economy at the end. We must take into consideration that the economic situation in Iran now is it's so bad. So the regime in Tehran wants to reach a deal. The Iranian regime and the now government, the current government in Iran wants to reach a deal, and even the supreme leader wants to reach a deal with the United States. And if you deal with the United States and the European countries, but they do not accept the economic sanctions of Mr. Trump. We must say that Iran did say in the last month that it wants to reach a deal with the United States, but when Mr. Trump restored and the maximum pressure policy in Iran, it changed its situation and said that we do not want to reach a deal with the United States or to sit on the negotiation table with the United States. So I think in the coming month, I think that Iran and the United States will reach a deal in the coming month. But when Mr. Trump's policy on Iran goes to the extent of imposing maximum pressure on Iran, and by the way, when Iran feels that the regime itself is at risk from or because of these sanctions and its bad effect on the Iranian economy and the Iranian lives, Iranian citizens' lives, daily lives. I think at this point the regime will change its situation and it will accept to be integrated in the process of reaching a nuclear deal with the United States and the European countries. So, in general, I think that it depends on how much will these sanctions and this pressure affect the Iranian economy at first. Secondly, how much will threaten the continuation of the Iranian regime itself. I think that this is a very important point that when these sanctions threaten the continuation of the Iranian regime itself in Iran, I think at this point the regime in Iran will change at this moment, will change its opinion and will set on the negotiation table with the United States and the European countries.
Mm-hmm. Professor Musmar, now, what role does Israel play in shaping Trump's policy towards Iran now, with the intelligence reports that Israel might be leaning towards or could strike Iranian nuclear sites?
Well, I believe that there is a good coordination between the United States and Israel, and I don't think Israel is going to do something by itself without consulting with the United States. Now, as I told you, the area, the Middle East, is coming now into a new future, and most importantly now, the continuation of the Abraham Accords and the position of Saudi Arabia. To the west, to Israel, and to the United States, Saudi Arabia is much of a better interest and more strategic partner than Iran, definitely. And we know Saudi Arabia and Iran are rivals, and Saudi Arabia is not going to accept any developments or future of the Middle East with Iran, with nuclear Iran. Definitely Israel as well, because Iran openly is talking about the destruction of Israel. They used Hamas against Israel. They used Hezbollah against Israel. So Israel definitely is not going to accept that. Saudi Arabia is not going to accept that. So, but I think, like, based on your question, I think it's going to be all the time with coordination with the United States. It's not going to be a solo or an individual reaction. No.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Atif, now, let's assume a scenario where Iran does sit down on the negotiating table. What sort of conditions would it set? And if it doesn't go back to the negotiation table, what strategies might it use to circumvent the economic sanctions?
Sorry, can you repeat it? I did not hear the question.
Mm-hmm. I'm saying, if Iran, let's go with the scenario that if Iran goes and sits down on the negotiation table, what sort of conditions would it set? If it doesn't go to the negotiation option, what strategies might it use to circumvent any economic sanctions posed by the US?
Yes, I think that Mr. Trump and Israel other alternatives and other ties will be the military selection or the military attack on one nuclear site. I think that will be definitely the second scenario for the United States and Israel, especially in the second Trump administration in the United States. I think that if Iran does not sit on the negotiation table with the United States and the European countries, I think that the choice or the second scenario, I think, will be 99% will be the military attack on Iranian nuclear sites inside Iran. You know that Mr. Trump also in October 2024 has urged Israel. I have talked with Benjamin Netanyahu to protect Iranian nuclear sites when Iran attacked Iran that month. So I think that Trump advocates this idea of attacking Iranian nuclear sites if it does not reach a deal with the United States and European countries. This is the second scenario I think that Mr. Trump will adopt with towards Iranian nuclear activities in next month. I think that the Iranian program will be, or the Iranian program problem will be settled in the Mr. Trump's second administration and second term.
Professor Musmar, now, how might Trump balance his desire for a new nuclear agreement with his criticism of the past deals like the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action? Is this desire a genuine one by President Trump? Or, as you've mentioned, does he want to impose the economic sanctions on Iran, and it would allow more or open an energy market for the United States?
Okay, well, basically, as I told you, the West, including the United States, they don't want to destroy Iran. They want to integrate Iran into the Middle East somehow. The problem is in the Iranian hands. Iran will not have that capacity that had before. There is no there is no proxies for the Iran in the Middle East anymore. It's over. And that was a clear message from the Secretary of the States and from the President Trump. The second one, clear message, no nuclear Iran. This is like a clear, direct message was directly sent by the President of the United States. So now, once we do a deal, and the deal has to be a comprehensive deal, including so many parties, including Russia, because we know that Russia was behind sort of agreements and support to Iran, all over the history. So now, Iran, I think, and I know that they are kind of sneaky, but they are not dumb. They knows that the playground change, the entire situation in the United States,
Yes.
including having President Trump or not. I was expecting that, even if Democrats won the election. But being now with President Trump, and we know his character, he is
Yes.
very pragmatic. He sent direct message, and actually he sent even like another stronger message that any idea that come up to the brain of Iranian people, officials, of trying to assassinate any member in the United States, any cabinet member, not
Yes.
Donald Trump only, anybody,
Yes.
that he is going to destroy Iran.
Yes.
So this
I'm
language
sorry,
that Donald Trump used.
I'll have to cut you off, Professor Musmar, because we're running out of time. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Ali Altaf, the researcher at the Egyptian Center for Strategic Studies, and Mr. Frank Musmar, the international relations professor. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your insights.